The innkeeper was busy getting intimate with his wife when he was suddenly interrupted by a knock on the door. Although the innkeeper was really impatient, he still went to open the inn door. As a result, the innkeeper, John, saw that it was a beggar. Both John and his wife were extremely angry. Especially his wife, Kelly, was deeply disgusted by the beggar in front of her. So John grumbled and directly shut the beggar outside the door. However, because John was in a hurry to continue being intimate with his wife, he actually forgot to lock the door. John was completely unaware of this. He went back into the room and continued what he was doing with his wife. Little did he know that the beggar had quietly followed him in and silently came to the bedside. Then the beggar stabbed John in the back. Kelly was so scared that she turned around and fled in a panic. But how could the beggar let her go? He closely followed behind Kelly. When Kelly reached the door, she found that the door had been locked by the beggar. There was no other way, so Kelly had to turn around and run upstairs. As soon as she hid under the bed, the door was pushed open. Listening to the approaching footsteps, Kelly lay under the bed and tightly covered her mouth, fearing to make even the slightest sound. The beggar slowly walked towards the bed and then suddenly lowered his head. Along with Kelly's scream, she was instantly and forcefully dragged out from under the bed by the beggar. Then the beggar threw Kelly onto the bed. After raping her, he brutally killed her. The beggar quickly cleaned up the murder scene and disguised himself. He then calmly lay down and slept in the couple's bed. But in the middle of the night, the beggar had a dream about the dead landlady. He woke up with a start and was too scared to fall asleep again. At that moment, all the lights in the inn suddenly went out. The old man downstairs was half asleep when he heard a woman crying outside the door, so he came out to check. However, after walking just a few steps, a ghostly figure flashed behind him. The candle in front of the statue also swayed violently. Then the old man opened his eyes in horror, as if he had seen something extremely terrifying. At the same time, David, a guest staying upstairs, also heard the crying. He came out with a flashlight to check and found that the water tank was splattered with blood. When David opened the water tank, he saw that the old man who had just been there was already bizarrely dead inside. David hurriedly called for help, but the beggar, Jack, came over. He lied that he was the new innkeeper. David was so nervous at that moment that he didn't doubt Jack's identity. It was the curfew time and people couldn't go out casually. Jack lied that they would call the police at dawn. At this time, a man and a woman came to the inn. The woman was wearing a cheongsam and had a very enchanting figure. Looking at her thighs that were faintly visible as she walked, Jack seemed to have already determined his next target. So he walked to the door and closed it. The name of this movie is Hunt for the Murderer. Friends who are interested are recommended to watch the original film.